Hi, hello. Welcome to i-Tutor NCERT series. Today, we are going to discuss Class 11 Geography NCERT Fundamentals of Physical Geography, Chapter 11 World Climate and Climate Change. The world climate can be studied by organizing information and data on climate and synthesizing them in smaller units for easy understanding, description, and analysis. Three broad approaches have been adopted for classifying climate. There are empirical, genetic, and applied. Okay, so there is a three broad approaches which have been adopted for the classifying climate. They are first one, the empirical, genetic, and the applied. Okay, so these are the three approaches: empirical approach, genetic approach, and applied approach. Now, empirical classification is based on observed data, particularly on temperature and precipitation. The genetic classification attempts to organize climate according to their causes. Okay, so what is genetic classification? It attempts to organize climates according to their causes. And the applied classification is for specific purpose. Okay, so there are three broad approaches which are empirical, genetic, and applied. Now, Köppen's climate scheme of classification. Okay, the most widely used classification of climate is the empirical climate classification scheme developed by V. Köppen. Köppen identified a closer relationship between the distribution of vegetation and climate. Okay, so the Köppen identified a close relationship between the distribution of vegetation and climate. He selected certain values of temperature and precipitation and related them to the distribution of vegetation and used these values for classifying the climate. It is an empirical classification. Okay, so the Köppen's climate classification is an empirical classification based on mean annual and mean monthly temperature and precipitation data. Okay, so he takes annual and monthly temperature and precipitation data. He introduced the use of capital and small letters to designate climatic groups and types. Okay, so he used the capital letters and small letters to designate the climatic groups and the types. Although developed in 1918 and modified over a period of time, Köppen's scheme is still popular and in use. Köppen recognized 5 major climatic groups. 4 of them are based on temperature and 1 on precipitation. Okay, so he classified or he recognized 5 major climatic groups and 4 of them are based on temperature and 1 on precipitation. Okay. Now, the capital letters A, C, D, E delineate humid climates and B, dry climates. Okay, so the letter A, C, D and E that delineate humid climate and the letter B, it dry climate. It denotes dry climate. The climatic groups are subdivided into types designated by small letters based on seasonality of precipitation and temperature characteristics. These seasons of dryness are indicated by small letters F, M, W and S, where F corresponds to no dry season, M that is monsoon climate, W for winter dry season and S for summer dry season. Okay, so each letter denotes each season. First one F, it corresponds to no dry season. Second one M, that denotes monsoon climate. Then W denotes winter dry season and S denotes summer dry season. The small letters A, B, C and D refers to the degree of severity of temperature. The B dry climate are subdivided using the capital letters S for steppe or semi-arid and W for deserts. Okay, so the capital letter S for steppe or semi-arid and W for deserts. Okay, so that is the climatic groups and types according to Köppen. Now, Group A, that is tropical humid climates. Tropical humid climates exist between tropics of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. So tropical humid climate exists between tropics of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. The sun being overhead throughout the year and the presence of intertropical convergence zone, that is ITCZ, that makes the climate hot and humid. Okay, so this makes the climate hot and humid. Annual range of temperature is very low and annual rainfall is high. So the annual temperature is low and annual rainfall is very high. The tropical group is divided into three types, namely, first one AF, tropical wet climate. Second one AM, tropical monsoon climate. Now third one AW, tropical wet and dry climate. Okay, so these are the tropical subdivisions. Okay, subdivision of tropical group: tropical wet climate, tropical monsoon climate, and tropical wet and dry climate. First one, tropical wet climate, AF. Tropical wet climate is found near the equator. Okay, so this is found near the equator. The major areas are Amazon basin in South America, Western Equatorial Africa, and the islands of East Indies. Okay, so the major areas are the Amazon basin in South America, Western Equatorial Africa, and the islands of East Indies. Significant amount of rainfall occurs in every month of the year as thunder showers in the afternoon. Okay, so the thunder shower, that's a characteristics of this climate. The temperature is uniformly high and the annual range of temperature is negligible. The maximum temperature on any day is around 30 degrees Celsius, while the minimum temperature is around 20 degrees Celsius. Tropical evergreen forest with a dense canopy coverage cover a large biodiversity are found in this climate. Okay, so here we can see the tropical evergreen forest with a dense canopy cover and a large biodiversity. Okay, so these are some of the specialities of this types of climate, that is tropical wet climate. Now, tropical monsoon climate. Tropical monsoon climates, that is AM, is found over the Indian subcontinent, northeastern part of South America and northern Australia. Okay, so the tropical monsoon climate, they are mainly found in the Indian subcontinent, northeastern part of South America and northern Australia. Heavy rainfall occurs mostly in summer. Winter is dry. The detailed climatic account of this climate type is given in the book on India physical environment. Okay, so that's we already studied. Now, tropical wet and dry climate, that is AW. Okay, tropical wet and dry climate, AW. Tropical wet and dry climate occurs north and south of the AF type of climate region. Okay, so it is mainly found between the AF type of climate region, that is tropical wet climate. Okay, AF is tropical wet climate. So the tropical wet and dry climate is found between the north and south of AF type of climate region. Okay, it borders with the dry climate on the western part of the continent and the CF or CW on the eastern part. Extensive AW climate is found to the north and south of the Amazon forest. Okay, so that is extensive tropical wet and dry climate, that is mainly found on the north and south of the Amazon forest in Brazil and the adjoining part of Bolivia and Paraguay in South America, Sudan, south of Central Africa. The annual rainfall in this climate is considerably less than that in AF and AM climate types and is variable also. Okay, so the annual rainfall in this climate, okay, that is considerably less than that of AF. Okay, AF means, which is AF, that is tropical wet climate. Okay, considerably less than that of AF and AM, that is tropical monsoon climate. Now, the wet season is shorter and the dry season is longer, with the drought being more severe. Temperature is high throughout the year and diurnal ranges of temperature are the greatest in the dry season. Deciduous forest and tree shredded grassland occurs in this climate. Okay, so the deciduous forest and the tree shredded grassland, these are some of the trees or some of the plants found in this climatic area. Now, dry climates B. Dry climates are characterized by very low rainfall that is not adequate for the growth of plant. These climates cover a very large area of the planet, extending over large latitudes from 50 degree to 60 degrees north and south of the equator. Okay, so this is between 50 degree to 60 degree north and south of the equator. Okay, north and south of the equator. At low latitudes from 50 degree to 30 degree, they occur in the area of subtropical high, where subsidence and inversion of temperature do not produce rainfall. On the western margin of the continents adjoining the cold current, particularly over the west coast of Sudan, America, they extend more equatorward and occur on the coastland. In middle latitudes, from 35 degree to 60 degree north and south of the equator, they are confined to the interior of continents where maritime humid winds do not reach and the area often surrounded by mountains. Okay. Now, dry climates are divided into steppe or semi-arid climates, that is BS, and desert climate, BW. They are further subdivided as subtropical steppe, BSH, and subtropical desert, BWH, at latitudes from 50 degree to 35 degree, and mid-latitude steppe and mid-latitude deserts at latitudes between 35 degree and 60 degree. Okay. Now, subtropical steppe, that is BSH, and subtropical desert, BWH climate. Okay, so subtropical steppe climate and subtropical desert climates. Subtropical steppe and subtropical desert have common precipitation and temperature characteristics. Okay, so they both have common precipitation and temperature characteristics. Located in the transition zone between humid and dry climates, subtropical steppe receive slightly more rainfall than the desert, adequate enough for the growth of space grassland. The rainfall in both the climates is highly variable. The variability in the rainfall affects the life in the steppe much more than the desert. More often causing famine. Rains occurs in short intense thunder showers in deserts and is ineffective in building soil moisture. Fog is common in coastal deserts bordering cold currents. Maximum temperature in the summer is very high. The highest shaded temperature of 58 degrees Celsius was recorded at Al Azizia, that is in Libya, on 13 September 1922. The annual and diurnal range of temperature are also high. Okay, that is the subtropical subtropical steppe climate and subtropical desert. Now, warm temperate climate, that is C. Warm temperate climate extends from 30 degree to 50 degree of latitudes mainly on the eastern and western margins of the continents. These climates generally have warm summers with mild winters. Okay, so the warm temperate climate, they have warm summers with mild winters. They are grouped into 4 types. First one, humid subtropical, that is dry in the winter and hot in summer. Okay, so they are dry in winter and hot in summer. Second one, Mediterranean. Third, humid subtropical, that is no dry season and a mild winter. Finally, marine west coast climate. Humid subtropical climate. Humid subtropical climate occurs poleward of the Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, mainly in North Indian plains and South China interior plains. The climate is similar to AW climate except that the temperature in winter is warm. Okay, so the temperature in the winter is warm here. Now, Mediterranean climate. As name suggests, Mediterranean climate occurs around the Mediterranean Sea along the west coast of continents in the subtropical latitudes between 30 degree to 40 degree latitudes. Example, Central California, Central Chile, along the coast in the southeastern, southwestern Australia. Okay, southeastern and southwestern Australia. These areas come under the influence of subtropical high in summer and westerly winds in winter. Hence, the climate is characterized by hot, dry summer, and a mild rainy winter. Monthly average temperature in summer is around 25 degrees Celsius and in winter below 10 degrees Celsius. The annual precipitation ranges between 35 to 90 centimeter. Okay, so that's about the Mediterranean climate. Now, humid subtropical climate. Humid subtropical climate lies on the eastern part of the continent in subtropical latitudes. Okay, so the humid subtropical climate they lies on the eastern part of the continent in the subtropical latitudes. In this region, the air masses are generally unstable and cause rainfall throughout the year. Okay, so here the air masses are generally unstable. Okay, the air masses are unstable and it causes rainfall throughout the year. They occur in the eastern United States of America. Southern and averages of precipitation vary from 75 to 150 centimeter. Okay, so the precipitation level varies from 75 to 150 centimeter. Thunderstorms in the summer and frontal precipitation in winter are common. Okay, so the thunderstorm in summer and the frontal precipitation in winter are common. Now, mean monthly temperature in summer is around 27 degrees Celsius and in winter it varies from 5 degrees to 12 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that is humid subtropical climate. And the daily range of temperature is small. Now, marine west coast climate. Marine west coast climate is located poleward from the Mediterranean climate on the west coast of the continents. The marine areas are northwestern Europe, west coast of North America, north of California, southern Chile, southeastern Australia, and New Zealand. Okay, so these are some of the main areas. Due to marine influence, the temperature is moderate and the winter. Okay, so here the temperature is moderate and in winter it is warmer than for its latitudes. The mean temperature in summer months ranges from 50 degrees to 20 degrees Celsius and in winter 4 degrees to 10 degrees Celsius. The annual and daily ranges of temperature are small. Precipitation occurs throughout the year. Okay, so in this region the precipitation occurs throughout the year. Okay, that is marine west coast climate. Precipitation varies generally from 50 to 250 centimeter. Now, cold snow forest climate. D. Cold snow forest climates occurs in a large continental area in the northern hemisphere between 40 degrees Celsius and 40 degree to 70 degree north latitudes in Europe, Asia, and North America. Cold snow forest climate are divided into two types. DF, that is cold climate with humid winter, and DW, cold climate with a drier winter. Okay, so first one cold climate with a humid winter, and second one DW is cold climate with a dry winter. The severity of winter is more pronounced in higher latitudes. Cold climate with humid winters, cold climate with humid winters that occurs poleward of marine west coast climate and mid-latitude steppe. The winters are cold and snowy. The frost-free season is short. The annual range of temperature are large. The weather changes are abrupt and short. Poleward, the winters are more severe. Okay, so that's about the cold snow forest climate. Now, cold climate with dry winters, DW. Cold climate with a dry winter occurs mainly over the northeastern Asia. Okay, so they are mainly over the northeastern Asia. The development of pronounced winter anticyclone and its weakening in summer sets in monsoon like reversal of wind in this region. Poleward summer temperatures are lower and winter temperatures are extremely low, with many locations experiencing below freezing point temperature for up to 7 months in a period. Precipitation occurs in summer. The annual precipitation is low from 12 to 15 centimeter. Okay, that is cold climate with the dry winters. Now, polar climate E. Polar climates exist poleward beyond 70-degree latitudes. Polar climates consist of two types, tundra, ice cap. Okay, so the first one, tundra, ET, tundra, and ice cap, EF. Now, what is tundra climate? The tundra climate is also called after the types of vegetation. Okay, so the tundra climate is so called the after the types of vegetation like low growing mosses, lichens, and flowering plants. This is the region of permafrost where this is the region of permafrost where the subsoil is permanently frozen. The short growing season and water logging support only low growing plants. During summers, the tundra region have very long duration of day and night, daylight. Okay, so during the summer month, what happened? The tundra regions have very long duration of daylight. Now, ice cap climate, EF. The ice cap climate occurs over the interior Greenland and Antarctica. Even in summer, the temperature is below freezing point. Okay, so even in summer, what to have the temperature is below freezing point. This area receives very little precipitation. The snow and ice gets accumulated, and the mounting pressure causes the deformation of the ice sheets, and they break. They move as icebergs that float in the Arctic and Antarctic water. Plateau Station, Antarctica, 79 degrees south portray this climate. Okay, that is the ice cap climate. Now, climate change. The type of climate we experience now might be prevailing over the last 10,000 years with minor and occasionally wide fluctuations. The planet Earth has witnessed many variations in climate since its beginning. Geological records show alteration of glacial and interglacial periods. The geomorphological features, especially in high altitudes and high latitudes, exhibit traces of advances and retreats of glaciers. The sediment deposits in glacial lakes also reveal the occurrence of warm and cold period. The rings in the tree provides clues about the wet and dry periods. Historical records describe in vagaries in climate. Okay. All these evidences indicate that change in climate is natural and a continuous process. India also witnessed alternative wet and dry periods. Archaeological findings shows that Rajasthan desert experiences wet and cold climate around 8000 BC. The period of 3700 BC had higher rainfall. From about 2000 to 2700 BC, this region was the center of the Harappan civilization. Dry conditions accentuated since then. In the geological past, the earth was warm some 300 million years ago through the Cambrian, Ordovician and Silurian periods. During the Pleistocene epoch, glacial and interglacial periods occurs. The last major peak glacial period was about 18,000 years ago. The present interglacial period started 10,000 years ago. Okay, so that is the climate change. Now, climate in the recent past. Variability in climate occurs all the time. The 90s decades of the last century witnessed extreme weather events. The 1990s recorded the warmest temperature of the century and some of the worst floods around the world. The most devastating droughts in the Sahel region south of the Sahara Desert from 1967 to 1977 is one such variability. During the 1930s, severe droughts occur in southwestern Great Plains of the United States and described as the Dust Bowl. Historical records of crop yield or crop failure, of floods and migration of people tell about the effect of changing climate. A number of times, Europeans witnessed warm, wet, cold and dry periods. The significant periods were the warm and dry conditions in the 10th and 11th centuries, when the Vikings settled in Greenland. Europe witnessed Little Ice Age from 1550 to about 1850. From about 1885 to 1940, world temperature showed an upward trend. After 1940, the rate of increase in temperature slowed down. Okay, so after 1940, what happened? The rate of increase in the temperature that slowed down. Okay, so that is the climate in the recent past. Now, what are the causes of climate change? The causes for climate change are many. They can be grouped into astronomical and terrestrial causes. Okay, so the causes of climate change that can be grouped into astronomical and terrestrial causes. The astronomical causes are the changes in the solar output associated with sunspot activities. Sunspots are dark and cooler patches on the sun which increases and decreases in the cyclical manner. According to some meteorologists, when the number of sunspots increases, cooler and wetter weather and greater storm winds occurs. A decrease in sunspots number is associated with the warm and drier conditions. Yet, these findings are not statistically significant. Now, and another astronomical theory is Milankovitch oscillations, which infer cycles in the variation in Earth's orbital characteristics around the Sun, the orbiting of the Earth, and the changes in the Earth's axial tilt. All these alter the amount of insolation received from the Sun, which in turn might have a bearing on a climate. Now, volcanism is considered as another cause for climate change. Volcanic eruptions throws up lots of aerosols into the atmosphere. So we know when the volcanism happened, there is a lots of aerosols. These aerosols remains in the atmosphere for a considerable period of time, reducing the sun's radiation reaching the Earth's surface. After the recent Pinatubo and Eason volcanic eruptions, the average temperature of the Earth fell to some extent for some years. The most important anthropogenic effect on the climate is the increasing trend in the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, which is likely to cause global warming. Okay, so what is global warming? Due to the presence of greenhouse gases, the atmosphere is behaving like a greenhouse. The atmosphere also transmits the incoming solar radiation but absorbs the vast majority of long-wave radiation emitted upward by the Earth's surface. The gases that absorb long-wave radiations are called greenhouse gases. Okay, so the gases that absorb long-wave radiation, they are called greenhouse gases. Okay, so the insolation is in short wave and the radiation, okay, radiating back, that is in the long wave, and they are absorbed by the greenhouse gases. The process that warm the atmosphere are often collectively referred to as greenhouse effect. Chlorofluorocarbons, that is CFCs, are products of human activity. Ozone occurs in the stratosphere where ultraviolet rays convert oxygen into ozone. Thus, ultraviolet rays do not reach the Earth's surface. The CFCs which drift into the stratosphere destroy the ozone. Large depletion of ozone occurs over Antarctica. The depletion of ozone concentration in the stratosphere is called the ozone hole. This allows the ultraviolet rays to pass through the stratosphere. Okay, so what happens if there is an ozone hole? The ultraviolet rays can pass through the hole and it reaches the Earth. The ultraviolet rays are very bad for or very harmful for the human life. Not only human but also other species. International efforts have been initiated for reducing the emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. The most important one is Kyoto Protocol, proclaimed in 1997. This protocol went into effect in 2005 and ratified by 141 nations. Kyoto Protocol bounded 35 industrialized countries reduced their emissions by the year 2012 to 5% less than the levels prevalent in 1990s. Okay, so that is the main effect of proclamation of Kyoto Protocol. Okay, so the countries or the industrialized countries should reduce their emission by the year 2012 to 5% less than the levels prevalent in the year 1990. Now, the increasing trend in the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere may, in the long run, warm up the earth. Once the global warming sets in, it will be difficult to reverse it. The effect of global warming may not be uniform everywhere. Nevertheless, the adverse effect due to global warming will adversely affect the life supporting system. Rise in the sea level due to the melting of glaciers and ice caps and the thermal expansion of the sea may inundate large parts of the coastal areas and islands, leading to social problems. This is another cause for serious concern for the world community. Efforts have already been initiated to control the emission of greenhouse gases and to arrest the trend towards global warming. And now let's hope the world community responds to this challenge and adopt a lifestyle that leaves behind a livable world for the generations to come. Now, the annual average near surface air temperature of the world is approximately 40 degrees Celsius. Okay. Now, an increasing trend in temperature was discernible in 20th century. The greatest 97 warming of the 20th century was during the two periods 1901 to 1944 and 1977 to 1999. Over each of these two periods, global temperature rose about 0.4 degrees Celsius. In between, there was a slight cooling which was more marked in the northern hemisphere. The globally averaged annual mean temperature at the end of 20th century was about 0.6 degrees Celsius above the recorded at the end of 19th century. The 7 warmest years during the 1856 to 2000 were recorded in the last decade. The year 1998 was the warmest year, probably not only for the 20th century but also for the whole millennium. Okay, so that's about this chapter. If you have any doubts, you can comment below. For more related contents, do like, share, subscribe.